You don't wake to birdsong or to sunlight gently spilling through embroidered curtains. You wake to a scream, the kind that sounds like a sword hitting bone. "Surge! Sturkis!" someone howls. Your eyes snap open. Everything hurts. Your ribs ache from the leather belt cinched too tight around your tunic. Your neck is chafed raw from your helmet strap. Your feet are swollen. Your hands blistered. And something, possibly a rat, possibly a god, pissed near your straw mat in the night. You are a Roman legionary. Not a hero, not a gladiator. Just another spine in the imperial backbone. One of thousands, nameless, exhausted, disposable. Your body belongs to the Republic Now Empire, and your will is leased out in daily installments. Your bed? A moldy pile of straw on a cold stone floor that smells like the combined sweat of every man who's ever tried not to die here. This is the barracks. A long, low hall. No windows, not real ones. Just slits in the wall that let in enough gray light to remind you you're alive. The floor is unforgiving stone. The ceiling leaks. You're surrounded by 50 other men who all look like they've been in the army since Romulus suckled a she-wolf. There's no privacy, no blankets, no warmth. But there is discipline and shouting, especially shouting. A shadow looms over you. Centurion. His face is what happens when time forgets to stop punishing a man. Scarred cheeks, eyes red with age and wine. One hand on his vine stick, the other ready to teach you fear. "Get up, pigs of Rome," he roars, and 50 bodies spring from their straw beds like rats in a fire. Your back screams. Your legs crack. The soles of your feet are raw. Your armor chafed you in places you didn't know existed. The iron smell of sweat and old blood fills your nose before you can sit up. To your right, Titus is still sleeping. Poor bastard. The centurion sees it too. One quick thwack of the vine stick, and Titus is no longer sleeping, or breathing well. Somewhere near the far wall, someone mumbles a prayer. To Jupiter? Mars? Maybe just to the god of not dying before breakfast. You stand, slowly, one layer at a time. Your tunic clings to your skin like damp bread. You pull on your belt, tight enough to remind your ribs they exist. You grab your gladius, short, blunt, but clean, because polish is a substitute for morale. Discipline is not an ideal here, it's gravity. You don't believe in Rome, you obey it. All around you, men are getting dressed in silence. A few mumble curses. One hums a song he probably heard from his mother before she sold him for bread. Someone pulls on sandals with broken straps. Another binds his calves in cloth because socks are for the dead and emperors. You move toward the door. Outside, it's barely dawn. The air cuts your lungs like a senator's dagger. Fog clings to the training ground like breath on steel. The whole fortress smells like oil, blood, and the promise of ulcers. There's already shouting on the campus. Another centurion barking orders, spittle freezing in the air. "Form up, worms," he bellows. "You are not men. You are not citizens. You are Roman war meat, and Rome is hungry." You fall into formation, shoulder to shoulder with the other anonymous slabs of meat. You don't think about home, you barely remember what it smelled like. You don't think about war, it's not a thing. It's a place, and you live there now. You think about standing straight. You think about not passing out. You think about making it until sunset. Because you are a legionary, and legionaries don't hope. They endure. The bell clangs, once dull and metallic, a sound somewhere between a funeral gong and someone dropping armor down a staircase. That means breakfast. You don't rush. No one does. There's nothing worth rushing toward. The mensa, the dining area, is a joke. A long table, some splintered benches, and a pot of something that was once technically food. Smoke curls from a half-lit hearth, and the air is filled with a smell that can only be described as edible regret. You grab a wooden bowl splintered along the rim. You don't remember when you got it. You don't remember how many other mouths it served. You just know it's yours because your name is scratched on the bottom, barely visible beneath a stain that might be wine, or blood, or both. A ladle slaps something wet and gray into your bowl. Porridge. If porridge gave up on life halfway through being cooked, it's thin, watery, and has the texture of overused bathwater. You chew out of principle. The grains are hard. One of them might be a pebble. Your jaw hurts. Everything tastes like smoke and copper. Welcome to breakfast in the Roman army. Next to you, a Gaul chews with the 1,000-yard stare of a man who's had the same meal for 8 years straight. On your left, a kid from Capua dips stale bread into the porridge. The bread bends, then snaps. He swears under his breath. Latin, but personal. Occasionally, there's something exotic in the gruel. A dead beetle, an unripe olive pit. Once, someone found half a tooth. No one asked whose. You sip from a clay mug filled with what might be wine. It's more likely watered-down vinegar. Either way, it stings your throat just enough to remind you that your esophagus still works. You don't talk during breakfast. No one does. This is the only moment in the day where silence isn't punished. So everyone clings to it like it's gold. You hear the creak of the door as another soldier limps in one leg bandaged, face swollen from the training yard. He nods. You nod. That's as much of a conversation as you get. The centurion passes through once, just to glare. Just to remind you that your moment of peace is leased, and the lease is up soon. He stops behind a Thracian and stares at his posture. The Thracian straightens, too late. The vine stick lands on his back with a sound like meat hitting marble. Chew straighter, the centurion grunts. Then walks on. You keep chewing. Straighter. Breakfast ends when the pot runs dry, or the centurion decides you've had enough morale for one morning, whichever comes first. You rise slowly. The porridge has settled in your gut like wet sand. Outside, the yard waits, and the sword drills, and the screams. You scrape your bowl clean with a crust of bread that tastes faintly of mildew. And then you're up again, marching, drilling, sweating. Because breakfast in the legions isn't about nutrition, it's about proving you're still alive. Barely. They call it lorica segmentata, a marvel of Roman engineering. Interlocking plates of iron, hinged, strapped, riveted, designed to protect you from blades, arrows, and if you're lucky, your own comrades in a bar fight. What they don't tell you is that it's also a torture device, disguised as military efficiency. You sit on the edge of your cot if a straw mat on stone counts as a cot and eye the twisted bundle of metal and leather in front of you like it's a venomous animal. You reach for it the same way you'd approach a chained bear, slowly, reluctantly, and already regretting everything. Piece by piece, you put it on. The chest plate first, cold. It bites into your collarbones like an angry priest. The back plate next, heavier than guilt, and not nearly as flexible. You reach around awkwardly to tighten the leather straps, only to realize you'll need help. You grunt. The Gaul behind you, the one who never blinks, tugs the strap tight. Too tight. Your ribs compress. You wheeze like an old bellows. He grins. You don't. Then the shoulder guards segmented, creaking, sharp at the edges. They pinch your skin when you move. They always pinch. You're convinced the man who designed them hated humanity. Next, the Greaves leg armor. Supposedly optional. You wear them anyway. You've seen what happens when an enemy axe finds a shin bone. It's not pretty. It's not fast. The belt wide, leather, heavy, decorated with dangling metal discs. They jingle when you move, like an angry tambourine. Supposed to protect your manhood. Realistically, It just draws attention to it. Then, the gladius short sword, wicked edge. You slide it into the baldric at your side. It thumps against your thigh, a constant reminder that violence is never more than one twitch away. Finally, the helmet. You hate the helmet. Bronze, heavy, a metal bowl with cheek plates that rattle like coins in a beggar's cup. Once it's on, everything echoes. Your heartbeat, your breathing, the insults hurled from your centurion. All louder, all closer, all worse. The chin strap smells like 6 other soldiers who wore it before you. One of them had onions for breakfast. 2 of them never washed. 1 died in it. You try not to think about which. Fully armored, you rise, and immediately remember how much it weighs. It's like carrying a kitchen on your spine. Every step squeaks. Every joint complains. Your arms swing like they belong to someone else. Turning your head becomes an act of negotiation. You are encased in empire. Out in the training yard, 50 more metal men are assembling. They move like statues, trying to learn how to dance. Clunky, loud, grim. Your centurion walks past, inspecting. He eyes your armor. Straps loose, he mutters. You open your mouth to respond, to explain it's not that your shoulder is just uneven, that last week's sprain hasn't healed, but he's already raised the vine stick. You nod. It's loose, you agree. Armor isn't comfort. It's discipline. It doesn't fit. It rubs. It cuts. It bruises. But it means survival. And in the legions, survival is the closest thing you get to love. You haven't even recovered from breakfast, and the order comes, fall in, full pack, standard march, 20 miles, and if I hear a single whine, I'll make it 40. The yard groans collectively, quietly of course. The centurion has ears like a wolf and a vine stick like divine punishment. You strap on your sarcina, your marching pack. It's not a backpack. It's a punishment stick with your life impaled on it. A wooden pole across your shoulder, everything tied to it. A shovel, because you'll dig your own toilet. A cooking pot that doubles as a helmet in emergencies. Rations of dried wheat and vinegar. Spare sandals, as if, and your cloak, which will be soaked in sweat before the second mile. You already feel the bruises forming under the leather straps. Line up, shoulder to shoulder. You stare at the back of the man in front of you, and he stares at the back of someone else. No one talks. Then, the horn blows, and the world becomes a cadence of pain. Left foot, right foot, gravel, dust, gravel again, always gravel. The sun rises higher. Your armor cooks you from the inside out. You sweat so hard it leaks into your eyes. Your vision goes blurry. The taste of rust sits on your tongue. You're walking down a Roman road, one of the gifts of civilization, they say. Level, paved, endless, built for armies, built for you, built for your suffering. Time disappears. Only the burn in your calves remains. Your right shoulder screams. The pole digs in like it's trying to reach bone. You shift it slightly. The centurion sees. Shift it again, he snaps. And you carry a second pack. You nod. Of course. A fly lands on your neck. You don't swat it. That's too much effort. At the 10-mile mark, someone vomits. Probably the kid from Campania, too soft, too clean. He doesn't fall, though. He knows better. Falling is the same as quitting, and quitting is the same as being left behind. And no one waits for the fallen. At mile 15, your feet stop feeling like feet. They're blocks of meat, wet, heavy, blistered. You feel a squelch, a popped blister. You don't check, you just march. You pass fields, wheat, olives, poppies. Locals stare. Some wave. Most don't. To them, you're not men. You're part of the machine, the marching fist of Rome. The road bends uphill. Your lungs burn. Your spine howls. The Gaul next to you begins muttering curses to a god you don't know. You join him. Finally, the signal comes. You stop. Your legs keep moving for 3 steps before you realize you're no longer supposed to walk. Your knees shake. You nearly collapse. The centurion paces down the line. "Good," he grunts. "Only 3 looked like they wanted to die today. That's improvement." You stand. You don't respond. You're too tired to nod. A horn sounds again. Back to camp. Because the march was the warm-up. You return from the march broken, soaked, blistered, and hopeful. Hopeful that maybe, just maybe, it's over for today. But hope, like most soft things, dies in the legions. The centurion doesn't let you breathe. Shovels out, defensive ditch, palisade by dusk. "If you sleep tonight, it's because I let you." He says it with a smile. The kind of smile that makes you understand why some men are never promoted. They enjoy this too much. So, the fort building begins. You take your Delabra, a hybrid between axe and pick, and slam it into the earth. Over, and over, and over. The dirt is hard, dry, uninterested in moving. But you're more stubborn. You've marched 20 miles with iron strapped to your chest. You can handle mud and pain. Or so you tell yourself. You're digging a ditch deep enough to trip a horse. Every legionary works in rotation to dig. One hauls the dirt. One curses the gods. The ditch has to surround the entire temporary camp. Not because you'll be here long, you'll leave tomorrow, but because the barbarians don't care if you're tired. They come at night, and they love it when you get lazy. So the ditch goes up. Then comes the wall, a line of sharpened stakes hammered into the ground like a row of wooden fangs. You cut the wood yourself. Trees don't volunteer. They scream when you strip them. But you don't hear it. You're too focused on not collapsing. By mid-afternoon, the camp starts to take shape. Tents are pitched small, cramped, and always damp. Fires are lit barely more than smoke and heatless glow. The latrines, dug out behind the last row of tents, pray you're not assigned to trench duty. The camp is an act of manic order, Roman geometry imposed on savage earth. Straight lines, perfect squares, 4 gates aligned to the compass. Because discipline isn't just for soldiers, it's for dirt too. Your fingers bleed, your back throbs. You sip vinegar water and eat a handful of barley that tastes like regret. By dusk, you're shaking. Your arms won't stop twitching. But the centurion walks past and nods. Good ditch. It's the closest thing to praise you'll get all year. You sit on a stone near the fire. Your hands tremble as you unwrap your sandals. Your socks are soaked in blood. Your toes are blistered, cracked, and slightly purple. But the wall stands. The ditch is dug. Tonight, you sleep in a fortress of your own agony. And tomorrow, you tear it down, march again, dig again. Because the Roman army doesn't stay. It occupies. It moves. It survives. The horn sounds before sunrise. Not the usual one. This one's different, deeper, longer, like a beast waking up. You don't need the centurion to yell. You're already moving. Because today is real. The whispers started last night. Scouts spotted movement. Painted faces. War drums. They're testing our line. You hoped it was nothing. But hope doesn't survive long in the legions. Especially not when a second horn calls and this one doesn't stop. The entire camp explodes into motion. You're halfway through strapping on your armor, hands shaking, when the ground starts to vibrate. At first, you think it's your heart. Then you hear it. Drums. Not Roman drums. Not the clean, syncopated rhythm of order. These are wild, unstructured, full of rage, like a storm thundering in from the trees. You grab your shield scutum, tall and curved, rim splintered from training, and lock into formation. The centurion walks the line. His face is stone. No one moves, he says. No one breaks. Rome doesn't run. You don't know how many are coming. No one does. Just that they're close. And then you see them. Barbarians. They don't march. They pour. A wave of muscle, furs, and iron. Faces painted. Bodies scarred. Screaming things you can't translate and wouldn't want to. Your hands tighten on the hilt of your gladius. It's heavier than usual. Or maybe your arms are just weak from digging trenches and marching through hell. The charge hits like a landslide. Arrows first, dark streaks slicing the air. A dozen thump into shields. One soldier screams. You don't see where he got hit. Then the crash. They hit your line like wild bulls. Some slam into the shields. Others try to leap over them. One brings down a hammer so large it splits the wood beside your face. Your arm goes numb. You stab without thinking. Low, under the ribs. That's what they taught you. Go for the gut. Twist. Pull back. You feel the sword sink in. Then resist. Then tear free. The man in front of you drops, clutching his stomach. He bleeds like an animal. He dies like one too. You want to vomit, but there's no time. A second man lunges, axe raised. Your shield catches the blow, but the force knocks you off balance. You drop to one knee. He swings again, wild, screaming. You roll. He misses. You stab. His breath stops. You lie on your back for a second, blinking at the sky. It's so blue. Too blue. A boot kicks your ribs. Up, someone yells. You rise. All around you, chaos. Screams. Blood. Dust. The formation is broken, but the centurion rallies it, shouting every curse Latin can offer. You see a comrade fall a spear through his thigh. He grabs for help. No one has time. The fight continues. You lose track of time, of wounds, of your own breathing. At some point you realize you're still alive. The barbarians pull back, not retreat, just regroup. The horn sounds again, this time short, sharp. Regather, reform. You do. Every muscle trembles. Your hands are red with blood, not all your own. Your gladius is chipped, your shield cracked. But you stand, not because you feel strong, because standing is the only thing keeping you sane. You've survived your first battle. No songs will be sung, no coin will be given, but you've seen war, and war has seen you back. The battle is over. At least, that's what they tell you. You're not sure when it ended. You only remember stumbling, collapsing, someone dragging you by your belt into the shade of the medica tent. Your ears still ring like temple bells. Your eyes sting from the dust and iron. But most of all, it's quiet now. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after something breaks. The tent smells of vinegar, blood, and burned cloth. It's not large, maybe 10 paces across, but it holds more pain than the battlefield. Everywhere. Groaning. Not dramatic, theatrical groaning. This is the real kind. Guttural. Wet. Wounded. You lie on a cot, if you can call it that. Wooden frame, leather straps, soaked in old sweat. Your gladius lies beside you, still sticky, still warm. A medicus approaches. No words, just tired eyes and a blood-streaked apron. He examines your side. You didn't even know you were bleeding. A gash, shallow, but angry, probably a glancing axe. He grunts. Not good, not bad, just noted. He pours something into the wound. It burns like betrayal. You scream. Not loud, just enough. He presses in crushed herbs, wraps it with a cloth already stained from someone else's yesterday. You thank him. He nods. That's the closest thing to a prayer in this place. Around you, a man missing 3 fingers, staring blankly at his hand like it betrayed him. Another cradling his leg as if holding it together with will alone. A boy, no older than 16. Dead eyes, no visible wound. He just sits, rocks slightly, says nothing. No one talks much after a fight. What is there to say? No one cares about glory. Not anymore. Not after watching intestines spill onto a shield like overcooked stew. You sip watered wine. It tastes like copper. Or maybe that's just the blood in your mouth. You don't remember biting your tongue. You don't remember much. The centurion enters once, his arm in a sling. He says nothing, just looks. He walks past the rows of wounded like a man inspecting tools that broke under pressure. You're not sure if he's proud, or just calculating how many replacements he'll need by next week. Outside the tent, the sun is starting to set. The camp smells of sweat, oil, and smoke from the funeral pyres they'll light soon, because burial is for the rich, and cremation is for the fast. You'll have to burn your comrades. Maybe one of them saved your life today. Maybe you don't even know his name. That's the Legion. You survive together. You die alone. You lie back. Your wound pulses in time with your heartbeat. You're not crying. Not really. Just blinking slowly. Too slowly. Night falls. The fires burn low. Somewhere in the camp, laughter rises brittle, nervous, the kind that cracks instead of rings. You sit near a torch, alone, with a scrap of parchment in your lap. The ink is nearly dry. The quill is frayed. You've started the letter 5 times already. Each time, you stop after the same word. Mother. You stare at it, as if by writing her name, you've summoned something ancient. Something that doesn't belong here in the land of steel, rot, and burning flesh. You try again. Mother, we are well fed and warm. The roads are dry. The legate is pleased. Lies. All of it. You're not fed. You're not warm. The only thing dry is the blood on your tunic. And the legate? He hasn't smiled since the last emperor. You cross it out. Try again. We fought yesterday. Some of the men were wounded. I was not. Half true. You were wounded. But not badly enough to matter, not badly enough to stop marching. You keep writing. We built the camp in record time. Our centurion says we'll be recalled to the coast soon. Maybe home. Another lie. You know where you're going deeper into hostile lands. There's no coast, no recall, no home. Just more roads, more battles, more ditches in foreign soil. You pause. Around you, the night settles in like a damp blanket. Some soldiers sharpen blades. Others sleep in their armor, too tired to care. Someone prays, softly, not to Jupiter, not to Mars, to someone older, maybe to no one. You keep writing. Titus fell. He was struck in the neck. It was fast. You don't write how he screamed, how he reached for your hand, how you didn't grab it because you were too busy not dying yourself. You leave that part out. I think of home often, the olives, the stream behind the house, your bread, still warm. You haven't tasted bread in weeks. Real bread, with crust, with salt. Not this dried barley paste they call rations. You pause again. Then you fold the parchment. You won't send it. You'll bury it later, or burn it. The army has no mail service, and even if it did, you wouldn't risk those words falling into the mud or into the hands of someone who never knew your face. Still, it helped. A little. You placed the letter in your satchel, next to your spare cloth, next to the charm you found on a dead Gaul, next to the bone dice you no longer use. Tomorrow, the march resumes. The sword returns to your hand. The silence returns to your mouth. But tonight, just tonight, you wrote your name again and remembered who you were before Rome took it away. Morning again, though you'd barely call it that. The sun doesn't rise, it bleeds upward through fog and ash, as if the sky is ashamed of the light it offers. You're summoned to the parade ground, not for drills, not for punishment, for something worse. Orders. A courier from Rome arrived before dawn. Fast horse, dust-caked boots, a face like stone baked in the sun. He doesn't speak, just hands over a scroll wax-sealed, eagle-stamped, written in a language called power. The legate reads it aloud. You don't catch most of it, too many titles, too many flourishes, the kind of language that drips gold but never touches mud. But the message is clear. By order of the divine and unconquered Augustus Imperator Caesar, Legio XIII, Gemina is to proceed east into the rebel provinces to pacify unrest and re-establish the peace of Rome. Pacify, a beautiful word for burn, kill, and conquer. You and the others stand in stiff silence. Some murmur prayers, others curse under their breath. Because east means mountains, means swamps, means guerrilla tribes with nothing to lose and every reason to hate the eagle on your shield. You want to ask, does the emperor even know your name? You already know the answer. To him, you are not a man. You are an asset, a body, a tool. A flick of ink on parchment decides if you live or die. And you will die. Eventually. If not today, then next season, or the next province. Your name will not be recorded. Your deeds will be folded into the glory of the empire, not yours. But Rome doesn't need you to be remembered. It needs you to obey. So you nod, alongside 5,000 other nods. And the legate seals the scroll in wax again, tucks it into a chest, and begins barking logistics. The courier mounts his horse, turns, leaves. He won't stay for the blood. Later that day, you prepare. You sharpen your blade, though it's already sharp. You roll your cloak, pack your gear, tie your sandals. You polish the eagle on your shield because it's all the identity you're allowed. You pass the standard bearer, his back bent under the aquila, the golden symbol of everything you suffer for. You wonder if he ever thinks about dropping it, letting it fall, just once. He doesn't, because Rome has no mercy, only direction. You sleep early that night. The next march begins before the moon fades. Eastward, into mist, into orders from a man whose sandals have never known mud. You dream of nothing, because even your dreams belong to the empire. They don't wear armor. That's the first thing you notice about the rebels. No lorica, no helmets. Some don't even wear shoes. They're barefoot in the mud skin, painted in ash and red clay hair tangled like roots, eyes bright with the kind of madness only desperation can birth. You expected warriors. What you get are farmers with knives, shepherds with slings, old men with scars, women with torches, children with nothing to lose. You arrived at dawn. The order was simple. Purge the village. Rebels are hiding inside. The word village was generous. A cluster of huts, smoke blackened, Thatched roof sagging from rain. Pigs loose in the streets. No walls, no gates. Just people. You and your unit move in. Formation loose but ready. Shields up. Eyes scanning. The tension is thick, not the kind that crackles with fear. The kind that sinks into your bones. Someone moves in the shadow of a doorway. The Gaul next to you shouts, raises his spear. Too late. An arrow buries itself in his throat. He drops mouth open, eyes wide dead before his knees hit the earth. The quiet erupts. From behind fences, from rooftops, from holes in the ground they come. Screaming, not like soldiers, like wounded animals. Swinging sickles, throwing rocks. One boy jumps on a legionnaire's back and claws at his face until he's flung into a wall. It's chaos. You slash at someone, a woman, maybe 30, she dodges. Hits your wrist with a club. Your sword falls. You punch her. She drops, doesn't move. You hope she's alive, but you don't check. The centurion roars. Form up, but no one hears. Or maybe they do, but they don't care anymore. This isn't a battle, it's a collapse. Your lines mean nothing in a village where every alley is a trap and every door hides an enemy or a child. You find yourself in the dirt, hands shaking, vision blurry. You lift your shield just as a pitchfork slams into it. You kick back. Someone screams. You look down. It's a boy. No older than 12. His leg's broken. You didn't even mean to. He cries. Not out of pain, out of rage. You can't look at him. You turn. You run. Toward the flames. Because by now, someone's set the houses alight. The rebels are dying. So are your men. But Rome will call it a victory. And the records will say, hostile resistance neutralized, village secured, minimal losses. No one will mention the child, or the mother cradling her burned son, or the look on your face when you realized you stabbed someone holding a loaf of bread. When it's over, the fires still burn. You sit outside the ruin, arms stained red, throat dry. The centurion claps a hand on your shoulder. Well fought, he says. You don't reply. Because your mouth is full of the taste of ash. 3 days pass. The fires are out. The village is gone. What's left are ashes, bones, and silence, and a report sent back to the legate on a scroll that weighs nothing, but speaks of order restored. You and the others march away from the blackened earth with no songs, no cheers, no prayers, just sunburn, cracked lips, and the memory of too many faces that screamed without names. Then camp again. And there, the legate stands, draped in crimson, gold rings, polished armor that's never been dented. He smells of oil and wine. His boots are clean. The centurion kneels and delivers the tally. 12 killed, 19 wounded, 3 deserters, 2 executed. The legate nods, doesn't ask for names. Order was restored, he repeats, as if that's all that matters. Then the ceremony begins. They call it a commendation. You're lined up with 10 others, armor brushed clean, faces freshly scraped, bruises hidden under linen. A trumpet sounds sharp, flat. A clerk steps forward with a wooden box. Inside, medals, discs of bronze, stamped with the face of a man you'll never meet. You're called forward. For valor, for obedience, for the restoration of Roman peace. He says your name. He doesn't look at your eyes. The medal is pinned to your chest. It feels heavier than your armor. You step back. The applause is minimal. The soldiers clap because they must. Because not clapping means suspicion. And suspicion means pain. But the worst part? You feel nothing. Not pride, not shame. You want to rip the metal off and hurl it into the fire. But you don't, because Rome is watching, even when it pretends not to. Then the punishment. The deserters. 2 of them caught trying to flee after the battle. They are stripped, beaten. One screams, one does not. The legate makes the rest of the cohort watch. This, he says, is what happens to those who deny the emperor's mercy. Mercy. The word hangs in the air like smoke that won't rise. You wonder, what is mercy when a man is burned for being too human? What is loyalty when it's rewarded with silence? That night, you're promoted. Not much, just a slight bump in rank, a new belt, a better ration. You're in charge of 7 men now, some younger, one older, all broken in different ways. They look at you like maybe you have answers. You don't, but you nod anyway, because that's the game. You nod, you obey, you climb the ladder one corpse at a time. They don't leave. The dead, I mean. You'd think they would after the screaming stops, after the wounds scab over, after the marching boots grind their bones into the earth. But they don't. They stay. Somewhere in the corner of your eye, in the silence between footsteps, in the black space behind your eyelids when you try to sleep. You wake at night with your hand on your gladius, sweat pooling in your neck crease, breath ragged because in the dream, it was your name they were chanting before they lit the fire. You try not to remember. But memory is a cruel legionnaire. It doesn't wait for orders. It comes unannounced, and it bites. You see Titus sometimes, in the faces of recruits, in the way someone drinks too fast or laughs too loud. He was your friend, or close enough. He died wet and twitching. You didn't hold his hand. You see the boy with the pitchfork, his eyes, his rage, his broken leg. You kicked him without thinking. You don't know if he lived. You tell yourself he did. You lie. You see the woman in the red clay paint, the one who almost took your eye with a shard of roof tile. She screamed in a dialect you didn't understand. You cut her throat anyway. You polished your blade after that. You didn't cry. You drank until you couldn't taste the copper. The army teaches you how to live, but never how to live with yourself. You've stopped writing letters, stopped praying. You light a candle once on a rock under a moonless sky. You don't speak. You don't kneel. But something in you aches, because every man you kill joins you in your shadow. Not to haunt, just to walk. Behind you, quiet, steady, waiting. And some days they outnumber the living. You march east again. More villages, more orders. The same song, just played slower, darker, and always. A name in your mouth you dare not say. A face behind your eyes that never fades. A question in your gut you never voice. What is left of me? You're not sure anymore. But you still march. Because ghosts don't stop the column. You see it in a dream first. Not the road, not the column, not the face of a screaming man. Home, a fig tree, dusty sunlight through an olive grove, a clay cup, your mother's hands, the way she used to hum when grinding grain, the sound of goats, the wind through the shutters. You wake up choking, because it felt real, but it isn't, because home doesn't exist anymore, at least not the way it did when you left. You don't even know how many years have passed. Time in the Legion folds over itself, marches, winters, blood, smoke, spring again, repeat. They say you're eligible for discharge. 25 years, they they say. A plot of land, a pension, a handful of coins, and a scar that twitches when it rains. But even if you go back, who will you be? You're not the boy who left, not the one who kissed his mother's hand, not the one who said, "I'll be back before harvest." You are something else now. A machine that obeys, a body wrapped in scars, a face aged by sun and silence. You don't know how to sit still. You don't know how to laugh without watching for an ambush. You don't know what to say to your father if he's still alive. And maybe worst of all, they won't understand you. You'll return and see it in their eyes. Fear, pity, distance. You'll be a stranger in your own house. They'll say they're proud, but they won't let their children sit on your knee, because they'll smell the iron in you. They'll see it. They'll see Rome. Some don't go back at all. They stay in the provinces, marry locals, build farms, pretend they never wore the eagle. Some become guards, mercenaries. Others drink themselves into the ground because it's softer than returning to a house full of ghosts. You think of returning, not because you believe in peace, but because there's a corner of your mind that still remembers the way bread smells when it's real. When it's warm, maybe that's enough. Or maybe it's just another dream. Tomorrow, the standard bearer says you'll cross the last river. The mission's end. Or another beginning. You sit by the fire, touch the ribbon where your medal used to hang. It fell off last month. You didn't pick it up. You look east, then west, and somewhere between the two you feel something like silence. Not fear, not rage, just a soft, tired ache. Maybe that's what home feels like now. Your armor creaks as you kneel, not in prayer, not in pain, just tired. A column of dust stretches behind you, 1,000 footsteps, each one swallowed by the earth. You've reached the end. Not a triumph, not a funeral, just a moment. Still, silent. The campaign is over. The scrolls are signed. The last outpost has been built, fortified, garrisoned. The standard is planted. The legate says a few words about honor and Rome and the eternal light of the empire. You don't listen because you're watching the horizon, because you're listening to your heartbeat like a drum that no longer calls you to war. They say you can go home now, that your service is complete. But what does that mean? They will not sing your name. There is no statue for men like you. No marble tablet etched with your deeds. The epics are for generals, for emperors, for men whose hands never touched blood. You were the spear, the bootprint, the shadow behind history. And yet, something in you still lives. Despite the killing, despite the marching, despite the weight of the helmet and the silence of command, you light one last fire, not for warmth, for memory. You place your battered gladius beside it. You sit and you wait. When the wind comes, it doesn't howl. It sighs, as if even the gods are tired of the killing, as if they too mourn the men whose names will never reach the marble. You close your eyes. You are not a hero. You are not a monster. You are not Rome. You are what's left after Rome passes through. And sometimes what remains is enough.